Hi, my name is Melissa. I am from Ottawa, Canada, and I started using virtual EMDR actually after a friend who was also recovering from leaving an abusive relationship had recommended that I try an EMDR type of therapy, and she said that it worked wonders with her because it took it a step further from the traditional, talk therapy where you kind of process your emotions and your thought processes along with your therapist. This kind of goes an extra further in depth because it really helps rewire like your, I'm not an expert or anything, but your neurological connections or whatever it is that is kind of beyond your conscious mind and your memories. So a lot of times with trauma, your body stores these emotions, and EMDR is such an easy thing because you just focus on this little dot as if you were playing a game. You're not really thinking about anything besides the prompts of your experiences that you were trying to process. So it asks you to describe like the sensations, the memories, the thoughts about yourself, and how it made you feel that you're holding on to, and then it helps you to kind of reprogram your mind by first deconditioning your mind and then reconditioning it or reprogramming it with healthier, more empowering memories. So not erasing it, because a lot of the times with these mental health issues in an ideal world, it would be great to just eliminate them completely, but in reality I think the best approach that we realistically have is just using them as turning them in from like a pain point to more of wisdom, or just part of your walk in life. So what brought me to virtual EMDR is actually because I was in the process of trying to get back on my feet after staying in a women's shelter for domestic abuse survivors, and at the same time I was also laid off from my full-time corporate job, which wasn't the best timing. But in the midst of everything, while also caring for my younger daughter and navigating family court, I didn't have time to, always go and see a therapist regularly, especially because they also have, traditional kind of business hours. So I needed something that I could do on my own time from anywhere, because a lot of the time I was going to and from appointments, and as well as something that was cost effective because, again, being laid off from my job, I knew my benefits were about to expire. So this was a really great solution because it covered all three aspects, but it didn't take away from, I guess, like the effectiveness or the healing it brought me. So the problem that brought me to, I guess, start using virtual EMDR was actually a combination of things. I struggled with, alcoholism in the past. Thankfully, I've been sober for 2 years now, but everything that I was experiencing, I later discovered kind of fell under the overriding umbrella category of complex post-traumatic stress disorder. So whereas typical, the standard PTSD that we all know is more of like a isolated, intense experience that's like a one-off event where you're in danger or something similar. Complex PTSD differs where it's not necessarily as extreme of an event, but it's a recurring exposure to being, for example, in an abusive relationship, or if you're held hostage somewhere, something where you can't really escape right away and you're subjected to it over and over again. So a lot of my symptoms included emotional flashbacks, which I didn't quite understand because I would get these really intense bursts of just feeling, and I always pictured a flashback to be maybe like reliving it visually, like a little memory popping up or something, but that didn't happen. So I was very confused when this happened because it would really throw me off with the intensity of it, but I didn't really have like a thing to associate it with. So I just thought I was kind of going through, major mood swings and stuff. I was also struggling with insomnia, depression, anxiety, and just like an overall heightened state of kind of hypervigilance, where I was always, overanalyzing people's reactions or just the energy in the room, always on guard, and just had a really hard time to kind of wind down and relax. Like I could not sit still. I was always staying busy to kind of, I guess, keep myself from just feeling in the moment. So my struggles were, so I would say it actually started back with like childhood trauma that I didn't really realize, which until I left my abusive relationship, and then that kind of bubbled to the surface. So all in all, I would say a good 20 years. I'm 28 now, so yeah, 20 years. But I guess the triggering event that brought me to seek out therapy was leaving this abusive relationship, which happened, it's about a 5-year journey. So a combination of the two, I guess. I was almost held back from doing virtual EMDR because nowadays they have so many apps for everything, and meditation, mindfulness, and I am like an app hoarder, or I download all these apps because they sound amazing, and then I never get around to using them. They kind of just sit there and I have to like offload them to free up storage. So I was worried that it was going to be another one of those experiences, but then once I actually walked through my free trial and using it, I realized like how effective it is in terms of going through all of the, I guess, ingredients to the thing that you're trying to, desensitize or to heal from. With virtual EMDR, I noticed an immediate sense of relief, which is really cool. In the bigger picture as well, of course, there was long-term effects, but it was neat to kind of walk away from it, even though I didn't understand what was happening, by just, following this little dot on the screen and then thinking about the feelings. I didn't actively know, like, oh yeah, I'm healing right now, but then right away, even like on a scale from 1 to 10, my numbers significantly went down to be, less intense when thinking of my traumatic experience. And then in the long term, my repetitive use just helped me overall ground myself, be able to kind of handle certain triggers that usually would have really thrown me off for the day with much more, I guess, like stability or ease. Like I said, it doesn't go away ever really, but it wasn't such a heightened reaction when thinking about it or talking about it or doing, paperwork associated with it, stuff like that. So I found that also very helpful in having to communicate and deal with my my abuser, moving forward with, court proceedings. I wasn't as shaky and I didn't feel quite as vulnerable because I just felt I had more clarity.